Wondering how to fall completely in love with the people and things that surround you at home? I've spent the last 15 years studying how and where families thrive and what relational and house characteristics ignite us with that homey feeling. On this podcast, we uncover how our brains process the people we live with and the houses we live in so we can confidently create our homes to be wonder-filled connection magnets. Ready to give up the decision fatigue, comparison hives, overwhelm ulcers, and confusion chaos? You are in the right place. I'm your host, Carly Thornock. Welcome to Becoming Home. Hey there, homies. So glad that you're here today. And today I have my husband Chase here with me. Hi. Chase is really excited about a project at the ranch. He's grinning from ear to ear and kind of doing a happy dance. So I think he should share with everyone why he's so excited.
I have behind me a turkey roaster on the ground full of sand. And today's a nice sunny day at the ranch and we produce all our own power. So when it's sunny like this, the power goes to charging our batteries, and then there's lots of power that we end up not using. And so this turkey roaster is warming up the sand, which warms up this room, and it should stay warm for hours because it's a big bucket full of sand.
He's a genius.
It's a sand battery.
I'm married to genius. We go to thrift stores and I pick up sweatshirts. I got a Madewell sweatshirt for $4 the other week, which was amazing. And Chase comes out of there with like 4 to 12 George Foreman grills and turkey roasters. We have these all over our house.
You should see the looks I get, right? And I'm like, I like burgers. I like fat-free burgers.
Fat-free burgers.
The grease just drips out of the front of the thing. Leave me alone.
So good. Well, we're getting nice.
Comments on that and our truck. Truck's covered in dirt. Looks like you've had fun.
That's right.
Well, yeah, we do have fun, but
we also just
mind your own truck.
A mud hole. But that's how I want to live my life. I actually decided is I want people to look at me and be like, where have you been? It looks like you've done something exciting. I'd say we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good for that. All right. Today we're going to be talking about listening to your body to create. Chase is the master brain body integrator. And I'm so glad that you're here to talk about this. The way that we create is by listening to our bodies. Emotion lives in our bodies. And if we are disconnected from our bodies, then we have no feedback as to what we like and what we don't like. This is the number one question that I get, especially from my new clients, my new students. They say like, I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what I like. If you can show me something, I can let you know if I like it or not, but I can't generate things that I like. And the reason that this happens is because people are disconnected from their likers. They're disconnected from their wanters. And that is a body experience.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of times, I don't know, if I was listening to this, I'd be like, I'm not disconnected from my body. I mean, I can feel my body. But if you're sitting there listening right now to this, can you feel your butt in your chair, right? That sensation. It's always, your body's been sending it. It's not new, but now you're aware of it and you're starting to feel it, right? So one of the most common ways in today's world that we disconnect from our bodies is our phones. So when we're feeling uncomfortable things, when we're in uncomfortable emotional space, we often disconnect by going and finding a dopamine hit in Instagram or Facebook. So if that's something that you're doing, or you go and find the food,
chocolate chips,
or you go and find the alcohol, or you go and find the
porn,
sex, or you go and find,
over shopping, everything.
Any of that stuff is dissociation, and you get really good at it and you end up disconnecting from your body. So that's what we're talking about here, right? And this is a neurological thing. The neurons start to disconnect, and so you can't just turn it off and on anymore because you've simply lost that wiring. So when we talk about losing connection to your wanter, it's a literal neuronic connection, much like someone who's paralyzed experiences paralyzation, but this is in the emotion centers, the emotional neurons.
And it's less apparent, like you were saying, you're not going to notice that you aren't in tune until you try to go create and you don't have any like drive behind it. You don't have any fuel or motivation. And the reason could be twofold, in my opinion. I want to hear what you think. I think that the first reason is that you just don't, you can't hear your body. Like you're just out of tune with your wanter. So that's what we've been talking about. But another reason that you could not have any drive or motivation is because you shoulded yourself. You've done like mind games so that you're trying to do something that you actually don't really want to do. So there's the body and the mind, they need to be focused and aligned. They need to be lined up together in one direction. And that's how we get motion, emotion, which leads to action, which leads to our results. And without them lining up, you have your brain that's telling you all sorts of things that you should do or you think would be cool to do, but your body isn't on board yet. And you get a whole bunch of non-action, non-motion. So motivation is developing a fiery desire towards something and feeling it in your body. What would you say the reasons are people don't feel that fiery motivation and drive?
Well, I think, like you said, being disconnected is one, but I also think we blame the wrong things, right? So when we have something that we should do or want to do or whatever, but there's no emotion behind it, nothing happens, right? It's getting caught in a lurch or stuck right in a jam. And we often just try to find external reasons why that's happening to us, right? And nothing ever ends up happening. And it's important to realize that the inspiration for doing something can come from your mind, sure, right? But a lot of times it actually is its origin is in the emotion. We see something and we feel something, right? Or we hear something and we feel something, or we're reminded of a memory, right? Like that picture of the beach that we have is an emotion. I mean, even this here, right? This picture of these flowers has a story, has a meaning to Carly and I that brings up an emotion, right? And the emotion that I can think of is like light and happiness. It was a sunshiny, warm day. We were at that brunch place. And then a little bit of dread because Carly said, I'm going to buy that painting. And I thought,
this happens in our marriage
anyway.
Kind of often.
Yeah, the dread of how much
the inspiration hits me and the computation of it hits Chase. But actually, this is a really interesting analogy because I do operate a lot from my body, tons from my body. Mm-hmm. And Chase operates a lot from his brain, which is genius level brain. You are very connected with your body too. But I'd say like between our relationship and our decision making, I'm going to be like, it feels so good. I just really want it. Let's go for it. Yeah. And you'll be like, okay, let's talk about money.
I usually use my brain as a way to put the brakes on something. Right? It's rarely doing anything. It's more just like
except for those dang turkey roasters.
Emotion walking out of DI with a cart full of George Foreman's for $20. Go try it.
Just go.
If you're stuck, right? If you're in the doldrums and you can't find your wanter, just go buy a cart full of George Foreman grills.
It's like the answer.
Magic.
It's totally magic. Yep. When Chase thinks it's a good idea, and I think it's an amazingly deep, powerful idea, you can't stop us. That's why we live in the actual middle of nowhere, because I was like, that would be so fun. And Chase is like, actually, that would be fun, because it made sense to him. And here we are. But your brain and your body work like this. It's its own system. And Chase's body works like this. My body works like this independently. And in order for me to do anything, whether it's like get dressed in the morning, for sure, take my cold shower. Like I have to get my brain and my body to agree. And that is the work. So many of my clients are like, Carly, I would love to redo my house. I just don't have time. I don't have time to declutter. I don't have the time because my kids are so crazy, or just regular kids, and life is so crazy. And there's the weather, and there's the husband, and there's the food, the never ending food, and the more food, and the cleaning up after the food. When am I ever going to have time to do the things that I want to do and that I feel compelled toward? So this is when. Can
I jump in?
Yes.
Like, no wonder your body has no emotion in that space, because your body has no sense of time. Zero.
Yeah.
Your body is 1,000% present, and that is it. And there's several experiments that you can try. If you are doing cold showers, try to think your way through preparing your body to get into the cold, right? Maybe you've done them long enough that after you're in it for a couple of minutes, your body kind of adjusts, right? And you get used to it kind of. It's not as cold. Try to do all that work before you step into the shower. It's not going to happen, right? Your body doesn't care. Your body doesn't care what's in the future. It doesn't care what's in the past. It just cares about now. And so if you're constantly worried about time, by definition, you're not in your body.
So your frontal lobe, your brain's job is to direct you in the place where you want to go, and your body's job is to get you there. So like my brain is like, I think it's a good idea to take cold showers for all of these reasons, and I think you should too. But every day my lower limbic system is like, actually, no, I think probably today's the day we don't have to do that.
But the combination of those two, like you talk about the marriage of those two, that's called flow.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're in the cold, you're in flow. It's not comfortable, but you're absolutely in flow. Right.
Time stops. You lose all sense of direction.
Well, it's not necessarily that time stops, even though time stops is a part of flow and can be defined as that, but time gets distorted.
Yeah.
Right. And so it could actually seem like a really long time that passes in very short time. Mm-hmm. Right. So cold by definition is flow, probably more towards that end because it feels like you're in there forever. Right. But it's just that distortion that we're looking for, because then you're present in your mind and your body.
So if you've ever thought to yourself, like, I don't have time to do something, if I'm lacking in motivation to create what I want to create, it's not about time. You're blaming time, but it's not about time. You have the time. You just need to align better so you can use your time. I'm going to say productively, but I don't mean it like efficiently getting things done. I just mean toward the end that you care about. Presently. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. So in the example of, I want to clean out my junk drawer, and your body is like, I don't want to do it. Your limbic system is always going to say, I don't want to do it. No matter what you say to your limbic system, it's going to be like, no, I just want to watch K-dramas.
Those are horrible. Sorry if I'm ostracizing most of your listening shit here, but those are so bad. They're so bad.
We just haven't found a good one, I think.
Oh, man.
We'll keep trying.
The dubbing, whatever.
This is just your limbic system.
Let's just say I feel no emotion when we watch this.
Okay, so let's get your body into motion. Let's get your brain and your body aligned. There's conditioning going on where you see a stimulus and then automatically emotion presents itself to you based on your thoughts and your beliefs. But the thoughts and the beliefs are there, and they're this like little that happens in your conditioning. And if you're feeling like you're not motivated when you look at your junk drawer, it's not because the junk drawer is wrong. It's not because you're wrong. It's just because you're thinking something about your junk drawer that makes your body like want to sink down. And your body presently will say, no, we're not into it. There's no motivation here. There's no drive. There's no passion. But if you can interrupt these thought patterns, these beliefs of what you think it's going to take to clean out your junk drawer, of how much you want to clean out the junk drawer, and you can convince your body, your emotions that it's true. Like, I love having a clean junk drawer. This is going to take me 5 minutes and it's going to be no big deal. Whatever you can believe that can get your body revved up, then you will do something. I don't care if it's true. I just want you to think of something that you can believe it, that you can believe and that you can make true. And what I mean by that is, the way that we make something true is we get it integrated into our bodies and the energetic field, and then we bring things to pass. So if you're going to believe that your junk drawer is overwhelming, you're going to feel lethargy and you're not going to do anything. And that will become true for you. Your junk drawer is overwhelming to you. But if you think, my junk drawer is tackleable, I can do this in 5 minutes over a certain amount of time. I'll do 5 minutes a day. This is no big deal. Your body will respond with no visceral output, probably, if you can believe it. And then you just do the junk drawer 5 minutes a day until it's done. And therefore, your junk drawer is no big deal. So this is how we create the truth of our lives. What do you think about conditioning? I know that you have a lot of thoughts about conditioning.
Well, it becomes an opportunity. Like when we see something and our immediate thought is, I don't want to do that. Initially, that has become an opportunity to dissociate, right? That's an indication that that's a dissociative emotion for you. And they can be different things. Like for some people, sadness is not a dissociative emotion, right? But for others, it absolutely is. So it's not necessarily what the emotion is, even though they tend to fall into that category of what we call
undesirable or
negative
uncomfortable
emotions. But the same thing can happen with people with excitement, right? Someone who's more introverted, excitement can be a debilitating emotion for them. So it presents the opportunity to become aware, right? To wake up just a little bit and to understand what the emotion is. If you can identify that, okay, then generally all you need to do is allow it, okay? And once you've allowed it, then you're going to find other emotions that are there as well. It's so fascinating because what we want to do is take that negative emotion and shove it away. But it's like the saying, don't think about purple elephants with pink dots, right? It becomes encompassing. It's all we think about. It becomes consuming and it shuts us down for long periods of time. And then you add dirty paint on top of it and it just continues. So if you can become aware of it and feel it, then you can also become aware of the other emotions that are there, the other thoughts, the other feelings. And then generally it clears and you're able to move on with your life rather than becoming a victim of your conditioning.
So good. Same track, but a different branch of thought. Chase and I lately have been talking about seasons and the calendar and how we live our lives or don't live our lives according to natural rhythms. Being out at the ranch, we have the opportunity to be very closely tied to nature, and it's so fun. It's one of my favorite things about living out here. And we've been doing a little bit of research into how the Georgian calendar came about and why it was positioned the way it is. And in our research, we found that back in the day, there were 13 months of 28 days. And Chase and I both love this 28-day thing. Like, this mimics a woman's hormonal cycle. This mimics moon phases. This mimics so many things about the earth. This like 28-day kind of cycle repetition.
Doesn't it just blow your mind that you literally have a clock in your body, right? Your circadian rhythm that not only tracks the astronomy of the planet spinning in space, right? But it also tracks the planet as it moves around the sun, right? So as the seasons change and as the lights change, your body has a natural clock. And women have a natural clock, right, that goes with the phases of the moon. So you have an astrology machine inside of you, which is fascinating, this clock that ticks. Another cool thing about those calendars is that a 13-month calendar with 28 days, it didn't end in December like ours did. December starts with Dec, right? Dec is 10. November, Nov is 9. October, Oct is 8. September is 7, right? So you had 7, 8, 9, and 10. December was the 10th month, which meant, depending on where the 13th month ends up, the actual beginning of your year is either March 1st or April 1st, which makes so much sense when it comes to riding your body's natural emotions and setting New Year's resolutions, because they would have started in the spring.
When
not
new things
the
are
doldrums
growing.
of
Yeah.
winter. And we're all like, why don't New Year's
Why don't we feel
resolutions work?
motivated?
Why don't I feel anything?
Why don't I want to create right now?
And the Romans, their calendar, they didn't even track the months between December and March, right? They were just like written off. They're like, we don't.
Don't you feel that way?
Those don't even
Sometimes
count.
you're like, highlight, delete.
Those aren't even real months. Yeah.
So the fun part of this when it comes to creating, and specifically creating with your house, but creation in any form, is that there's a rhythm where you're going to naturally be inclined to take very powerful action and ride that wave. Like, ride that creation wave. You want to create like families. You want to create branches. You want to create a beautiful home environment. You want to create knowledge. You want to create expertise. Whatever it is that you want to create, do it when it feels most natural to you, and maybe take a minute to think through when that naturally is. Because if you can align yourself when natural alignment is happening, it just is such less work. You can totally get yourself there if you want to, but you also don't have to do all that much work.
And I want to say, like, when you're in that space, by definition, if you're trying to rediscover your wanter, it's going to feel disconnected in some ways, because you may be having this emotion, but your brain can't make sense of it, right? We're so used to going from our brains to trying to get our bodies to do things. And to rediscover and reconnect with your body, now you're actually listening to your body first before your brain catches up. And so it seems like, I mean, you're going to be like a wild artist almost, right?
It kind of feels like that.
You just kind of are doing what your body is, it feels right to your body. Not necessarily good, right? But what feels right.
And that's a good distinction.
And so when you start that process, just recognize you're going to be all over the place. Like I equate it to a pendulum, right? It just kind of swings pretty hard as you're learning to do it, but it's like learning how to shoot a basketball. No one's going to put your picture up as a great way, a good form of shooting a basketball when you're first learning, right? It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be everywhere, but eventually you're going to get better at it. So loosen up your restrictions and be free to kind of experiment with that. Even talk with the people you love and be like, hey, I'm going to start trying to reawaken this, and then just go for it. It'll be messy.
You might sleep a lot for a little while.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a time where you're going to want to wake up.
Your body's really working. It's reestablishing neurology, and it's reestablishing new electrical pathways. And that takes effort. That's why babies sleep so much.
Yep. They're growing a ton. So there's a time in the month, especially for us women, where we want to create, and there's a time where we want to recover. Pay attention to your body. There's a time in the seasons where we want to create, and there's time when we want to recover. There's time when we want to prepare. Chase and I have felt this last fall when we were living out at the ranch. I've never felt this way before, where I could feel the first day, and I think I've expressed this on the podcast before, like I could feel the change of the winds very beginning of October. we felt the winds change the first week of October, and our bodies were like little squirrels chasing, equates it to feeling like a squirrel. And that's totally the best description, where we're like, we need to get food together. We need to get everything put together. It's winter, it's winter, it's winter, winter. And the it feels like a biological clock ticking with the seasons was so loud. It was so fun and so loud. I had never really felt that way before, because we just hadn't paid that much attention, probably is what it is. So investigate and feel, and don't belittle yourself or shame yourself when it's the middle of the winter and you don't want to decorate your house or put up the wallpaper, and then roll with it.
But become aware of the emotion that's there.
Yeah.
Right. Tie into that, because the emotion may be to not do something, but not doing something can be just as creative as doing something. Like, it's not.
Talk more about that. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I think like taking time, for example, to be still, by definition, is not doing anything. Right. But the world needs that more than anything, is taking the time to stop and to be still, and to listen to your body, and to listen to the seasons, and to like reconnect and communicate with everything. But again, by definition, that's not doing anything. And sometimes that's the best thing you can do. Now, if you add a bunch of dirty paint on top of it, then you're not actually not doing anything, right? Like that becomes counterproductive to that whole process.
You're distracted.
So our bodies actually stay in this really unhealthy midline of, when we're not doing anything, we feel guilty about it. And when we want to do something, we're not motivated to do it, right? And so, I mean, ultimately what you end up seeing is that you end up creating the thing that you're most afraid of, right? You create your results.
You create your thoughts, and your results. Along these lines, like, it feels like a bulb that you plant in the fall, and it looks like it's doing nothing under the ground, but there's so much going on. So we might not, in our Western way of thinking about things, when we're being still and recovering and rejuvenating, we may not be thinking that we're doing anything, but there's so much that's going on that is, like you said, like such valuable creation. So listen to your body, and create in the way that it's wanting to create, and think about it as a partnership of your mind and your body, and together your soul and your spirit, giving and taking, and leading and following, and switching off, and having each other's backs, because there are going to be times where your brain needs to take the lead and your body will come. And there are also times when you can let your body take the lead and follow what's going on. What do you think?
Amen.
Chase and I are learning how to West Coast swing right now, and we're good ballroom dancers. we are pretty good. Back we had our heyday, but West Coast is a different beast. It is completely different. It's so much more of partnering versus lead and follow. And so this is a fun analogy for me to think about with how we listen to our bodies, because with West Coast swing, the man gives a lead, and then there's like breath where the leader listens to his follower, and she has all of this opportunity to create mass chaos. Is kind of how I love to see it. My favorite dancers are the ones who are surprising and funny in their dance. But there's always like a direction and a flow. And there's a time where a follower listens to the leader, and there's a time where the leader listens to the follower. And Chase and I are like ballroom dancers, standard ballroom dancers. So this is like closed frame, big ball gowns, like very much lead follow.
See, this dates us, because nowadays it's just called ballroom. It's not standard, it's ballroom.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
We're old.
But we're so wise.
But I think this is interesting because we have that background, we have conditioned responses, right? We have a conditioned way of dancing, of leading, of following, of framework, of everything, right? And it took time to develop that. And that's good, what made us good ballroom dancers, right? But now that we're learning a different style of dance that is completely different, we have to become aware of that conditioning, unwind that conditioning, and reinstall new conditioning. And that's a difficult process. It's not easy.
And this is the work of living a life.
And we can't think our way through it. The only way to do it is just to do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Just
go make
dance
a big mess.
Go make a mess.
That's it. And on that note, we'll talk to you guys next week. Hey, if you're loving what you're hearing and you want to know more, I invite you to go over to carlythornock.com and you can pick up a free guide. These are the 3 biggest mistakes that people make when setting up their houses. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes. And of course, in true Carly fashion, you know it's going to be a lot less about the house and a lot more about your perspective about the house, but with some good housey tips thrown in. Go over to carlythornock.com and you can pick up that today.